I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Houston, we have a problem.
But why mail models?
Are you not entertained?
Why so serious?
It's alive! It's alive!
The snozberry tastes like snozberry.
Hello and welcome to Film Logic, a podcast about the movies of yesterday, today, and tomorrow with all the fandoms in between. I'm your host, Mike, and we have our other co-host, Adam. Are you there?
Hey, what's going on, friends?
He's doing great. Sorry I answered for you. I don't know why.
Thanks. That's about par for the course. But we have somebody else joining us, too.
Oh my gosh, yes. Before I bring him up with so much excitement and enthusiasm and hype, you think it would be Tom Hanks. I have so much hype for this man.
I wish.
Yeah. Let me just say we have a Discord called Retro Logic, which is hosting us. Bunch of nice guys, bunch of nice geeks. They live up to that name. And if you want to talk about how Starfield is increased Xbox price, like sales by 1,000%, those are the guys to talk to. So look for the link to join our Retro Logic. Anyways, I have with me a man that I call cousin, because he's my cousin, but he also works in the movie industry, and I am shocked it took me this long to actually invite him on this podcast. Sam, are you there?
I am. Thank you guys so much for having me. And yeah, what the heck? Sorry, everybody. I'm not Tom Hanks, but hopefully I can have some good insight and some cool stuff to talk about today with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Mike, way to make our guests feel unwelcomed in the first 30 seconds, dude.
I know. Should I tell him he's also doing fine?
Yeah.
Anyways. It's been a long Labor Day, folks. So Sam, you're the biggest person we've talked to because you have a connection to Hollywood. Tell us, like, what school did you go to? Where did you intern? How did you get there? I want to know the dirt.
Yeah, so I went to a private film school in New York City called School of Visual Arts. And there I studied directing and editing. And it was great. I got to work on a lot of film sets throughout my 4 years. I got a bachelor's degree. And when I graduated, I did the cliche thing of packing up all my stuff and moving to Los Angeles, Hollywood. And it's just your typical cliche story of not having any money, but just going there with a dream. And thank God, I guess it kind of worked out.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but you're no longer in LA. Am I right?
Yes. That's something we can maybe talk about later. But yeah, when I moved to LA, I just I had some connections from school that got me some interviews at some different places. I worked on some film sets out there. Kind of just started just your typical stuff. You start small. You start working on one film set. You meet other people. Then you work on another film set. And then, hey, I know a guy who works here, and then I started working at a trailer house, and I was just working in the dub room. So I basically every time one of the editors finished doing like a cut on a trailer, I would record it. And this I mean, I guess it's showing you how old I am now, but we used to record it to tape.
Nice.
And then we used to send those tapes to we'd have like another like PA. We'd lock it in a box, and they would drive it to the studios to give to the executives. Now that's no longer that way. Now we just share everything via encrypted links. But man, those were the days.
Yes. Wow. If you think that is what makes a person old, when I first went to college, like digital editing wasn't invented yet. We were still putting things on VHS and hitting cut, record.
Yeah, I mean that's how they used to do it. I mean, even in
Mhm.
trailer editing, if you watch old trailers, you know, there wasn't much going on in them because there just simply wasn't that much they could do with it, you know.
Mhm.
And then it wasn't until we started getting non-linear editing software where we could start doing different types of cuts and adding sound effects and doing all sorts of cool stuff. So,
Mhm.
but we can talk about anything.
Well, well, Adam,
Yeah.
now's your chance to get out your Christmas list of questions.
Yeah, right. Um, no, I mean, the first thing that I wanted to ask, I mean, even just from that short little job description you gave us, um, I am super fascinated with the evolution of trailers because it definitely, and maybe it's corresponding with technology, but it definitely feels in the last, 10, 15 years that trailers have kind of become less of an afterthought and more of a, like, you kind of have to see the trailer before you see the movie, especially if it's like, stuff coming out for on the Marvel side, or, there's something Star Wars. It always feels like, these trailers are, almost as much need to see as, some of the TV shows and stuff that go with Marvel. Would you say that, the demand on the corporate side is increased for the quality and the importance of like what you're doing on the trailer side?
Yeah, I was just thinking real quick. I just wanted to say because
Mm,
I didn't really explain to the audience. I'm currently working as a trailer editor, um,
mm,
and I've been doing that for the past almost 12, 13 years now. But
mm.
I just want to say that because we didn't really explain that to the audience.
Right.
But
No,
yes,
good
yes.
call.
I think I know what you're saying with the question. Do you think you can just could you elaborate on the question a little bit more?
Sure. Would you say that like the nature of trailers has changed in terms of like the purpose of them? Because before, it definitely felt like growing up, it felt like, when you watch a trailer for Lord of the Rings or whatever, you're like, oh yeah, this kind of gives me a sense of what the movie is. It seems kind of interesting, in out 30, 45 seconds. But now it feels like we're getting extended cut trailers, and we're getting um red tape, in the red trailers, for rated R
Red
movies.
bands, yeah.
Yeah. So would you say that the business of trailers has changed?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, movie marketing is become I its own genre. Like it's
Mhm.
so ingrained in American culture. It's like it's a part of pop culture. Like when a new movie when a new trailer, well, typically it's usually a teaser. When a teaser
Mm.
drops, now you got every YouTube reviewer making content about the teaser. You got it just spawns so much conversation and and we use that to our advantage. Some we'll throw in Easter eggs or we'll throw in like a shot of something to get because we know that the YouTube reviewers and all that stuff, they're going to see that stuff and they're just going to want to talk and talk and talk about it. And the more people are talking about your movie, the more hype it gets, and hopefully that results in more ticket sales. So yeah, I mean, there's so much focus on the movie marketing today, and it's changing a lot recently with, TikTok and Instagram. It
Mm.
used to just be you make a trailer or two and that was it. Now we're doing full digital content, making specific spots for Instagram, um, it where, specific to the digital audience. So yeah, I mean, there's whole new job sectors that have opened up that's specific to creating content for digital marketing. Then there's the theatrical, where where you go to the movie theater and you see the trailer in the theaters, and then also the broadcast where we're doing TV spots and 15 seconds, or even digital buys where you're doing you're on YouTube and you're watching whatever, and then boom, a 30-second spot comes on for the new Marvel movie. So I mean, it's just such a growing industry, and it's
Mhm.
you know these studios, they're putting 300-400 million into these
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure they get a good return on it, and by doing that, people gotta know about it. So it's very important to them.
Yeah. For sure. And
I
yeah,
hope that answered your question.
no, 100%. Those really great insight. And yeah, no, it definitely does feel like it's changed, like you were saying, like it's totally evolved into this business. Like, me and my friends were just talking about because the Rebel Moon trailer just dropped, I think, earlier this week. Zack Snyder's, Star Wars project. That's not a Star Wars project. And we were talking. We watched the trailer, and it's like, whoa! It feels like they're introducing every storyline, and it feels like it was supposed to be a teaser, but it felt like it felt like 8 minutes of content shoved into like 3 minutes. And you're like, oh, geez, like this is crazy. And yeah, definitely trailers have become less of a commercial, and now it's more like you were saying, like it's a whole
It's
marketing thing.
it's like a
It's
And
almost
40-minute
content.
sales
yeah,
pitch.
It's almost content in
yeah,
itself.
right.
Let me ask you. You
Hmm.
said that it was giving away all the storylines. Did you like that, or did you not like that?
Um, so I've been blessed in not caring about spoilers. I It doesn't bother me because I more care about, like, if a story beat gets revealed, I'm more interested in seeing how a movie's director or a movie's writer connects the those all the dots. So, spoilers don't really bother me too much. I'm more excited about the execution, but some of my friends are like super into like making sure that nothing gets spoiled, and sometimes they get they were kind of like not peeved, but they were just like, oh, like that they feel surprised sometimes that they get stuff revealed to them in the trailers. And I guess it really just comes down to the person, but at least me personally, I enjoy getting like that information and then seeing how it all fits together like a puzzle.
Yeah, yeah. It's so great. There's so many different themes and topics
Mm,
and sectors of the trailer world you can dive into, and I just of what you were talking about alone, we could have like a 3-hour discussion about. But what I'll say to
mm,
that is, that's what we do.
mm,
We sit in rooms and we go, okay, here's this new Marvel movie. You
mm,
know, in this movie, there's going to be X, Y, and Z characters that nobody knows are going to reveal themselves in it.
mm,
And, it comes down to, what I'm trying to say is, that's what we do in the trailer world. Is
mm.
we try to find that balance of what do we show that gets people interested enough to want to spend the money to go see the
Right,
movie, but not give away everything. And
right, right.
and sometimes sometimes we give too much. Sometimes we don't give enough.
Mm.
Usually we give too much, though. Let's be honest. But
You, so you brought up
that just
something interesting.
Mm.
Do you have any like studio oversight? Like the studio's like, we
Yeah.
want this, this, and this, or is it all on your shoulders?
oh my god. No, it is 110% on the studio side. So
Okay.
how it works really is I'll explain it quickly, and but essentially how they do it is say a studio makes a movie, and they
Mm-hmm.
go, okay, cool, we just shot this movie, and we want to start working on a teaser for it. The clients will hire, they'll probably go to, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 different trailer houses, and they'll say, all right, here's the movie, cut us a teaser. And it's kind of like, what's it called, Darwinism, where it's like, may the best win, may the smartest and
Mm.
best trailer win. So how it'll work is we'll all go crazy and cut the best trailer we can, or the best teaser we can, It will send it to the client. So then the client will get 5 teasers from 5 different companies, and then they'll maybe go, yeah, like maybe give us a few notes here and there, and then they'll go into meetings on the studio side, and they will discuss where to go from there. And usually what happens is they go, okay, cool, thank you so much. We're going to throw all that out and start over because now we have a better idea of how we kind of want to shape this. And that
Wow.
kind of happens every step of the way. It's always and again, I'm not talking bad about anybody because this is the process, but it's always cutting teasers, cutting trailers, viewing them, viewing how the tone of them, and a lot of a trailer is tone. Like when you walk away, what do you feel? Is it triumphant? Is it scary? What do you is it hopeful? Like the music, like everything. So a lot of it is just basically throwing out what you've done and starting over again, but you didn't lose anything of it because you learned a lot from and again, you're having 5 different companies cut on it, so they're seeing it from all different angles, but so they have like a bird's eye view of like, oh, like the way that they cut that action beat or the way that they use that line with this line, that works really well. That really embodies the storytelling that we want to go. So then they'll say, so like basically they'll be like, okay, we love these 3 teasers, and then maybe 2 companies are now off the project. So then it's down to 3, and then maybe it gets down to 2, and you'll work up to like version 100 sometimes. And then it's like and then what happens is if they've got 2 teasers, it usually comes down to like 2 from 2 different companies, and then if the clients are feeling real good about it and the studio execs are feeling good about it, what they do is they send that teaser to testing facilities where they actually have people come in and they show them the teasers, they ask them a bunch of questions, and then they take all that data and they say, okay, like it seems like the cue that they were using on this teaser worked really well, but the other teaser's storytelling worked better. So then they'll choose one trailer house and they'll give us the data and they'll say, look, this teaser, we want you to use the music they used in this teaser, but they but your storytelling worked. So recut the teaser, but with this cue involved. I know I'm saying a lot, but does any of that kind of making sense?
Yes, it sounds like a reality TV show that needs to be made where people get voted off the studio.
Right. Right. Well, and it makes sense why movies will say, like, take The Flash, for example, like, their budget, you were saying earlier, like 200 million, but really the hidden costs that are there, like all that stuff, people get paid through that entire process of like the trailer writing, the testing, like those are people's jobs. And, that's why movies are, if they don't make $1 billion or, they flop opening weekend, it makes
It's on
people
the
do this
studio
thing.
execs, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I think about the pressure they're under, and I just want to add real quick. When you see a trailer, just know that there are probably close to 100 people that had something to do with making that trailer
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so like, yes, a lot of it is on the editor actually cutting it, but I work with music supervisors. They're feeding me new cues and cool new sound design to add to it. I'm working with copywriters that are coming up with cool, unique copy to throw into the trailer. I'm working with graphic artists that are creating these really cool, interactive 3D graphics that are, coming in and out of the trailer. And then that's just on kind of my side. Then I'm also working, or then the client side, they're working their asses off too. And you're just such a high talented, so creative group of people, and I just can't say enough about the people in this industry. I know Hollywood gets a lot of hate, but I think people forget about that. There's actually people behind this stuff,
Right.
and we're all working so hard just to create the best level of
Mhm.
content we can. So,
For sure.
Mhm.
and everybody is very talented, and I'm just so grateful to work with
Mm.
all these amazingly creative people every day of my
Mm.
life.
For
Wow.
sure.
And you're just talking about like maybe like a 30-second trailer, like they do a wipe and you see Darth Vader's crushed helmet, and then he says coming next year. Like to think that that might have been 100 people on that.
And I didn't even get into it. Think about this. So say it's all, the music's in there, the sound
Mm.
design's in there. Now we have to work with legal teams to clear all the music rights,
Right.
so that we can pay to use that music cue, so that we can pay the people who create the sound design. So we can pay them money to license their sound design in the teaser, and then on top of all that, we send that to a finishing house, and then the finishing house has the professional audio mixers, and they mix the audio perfectly, and then you have color graders that color grade it and make sure it's an endless pipeline of
Mm.
super professional talented people working
Mm.
on it every step of the way, and it really is crazy. I mean, maybe it's even more than 100. I don't want to, but just know, when you see a trailer, there are maybe 200 people behind
Yeah.
making that into a reality.
No,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
totally makes sense. And because people really, when they think about it, and they see like a Marvel movie, they're like, oh, Disney. They think actors, and then they might think, maybe they might think of Bob Iger, and maybe that'll be the end of it. Maybe they'll think of like the a producer maybe, but really the business of making movies, it goes so much deeper than that. There's like you were saying, like there's legal teams, you know there's
Mhm.
lawyers that specialize just in that, and yeah, I know it's crazy how really deep it goes, and really how many fingers are in the pies, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's not just, you can't just point at one thing, and you say that like Hollywood gets a lot of hate, but people don't really realize like what they're they don't know what they're directing their anger at, right? They don't have a full picture of what they're talking about.
Exactly, and
Mhm.
to that point, it's a this strike is, and
Mm,
I don't want to talk too much about the strike, but
yeah.
I was reading an article about LA, and it's really
Mm,
sad because it was from the perspective of three people: uh, a woman who owns a hair salon, a
mm,
guy who owns a dry cleaning facility, and a guy who owns a limo service.
mm,
And oh, I'm sorry, a fourth one, a guy who just owns a restaurant.
mhm,
And you would say, okay, a girl cuts hair, a dry cleaner. What does that have to do with Hollywood? Well, actually, it has a lot to do with Hollywood. All the
right.
execs at the studios, they have meetings and they interface with clients and have international business dealings. They get their suits dry cleaned at that business cleaner. The hair salon, all the execs and all the talent, the actors, they get their hair cut there. The limo driver drives them to the red carpets and drives the actors to the studio back to their house. It's such it so like when people are like talking about the strike, there's so many people that aren't
Mm,
talked about. It's not just the actors. It's
mhm,
it's all these small businesses that are also affected. And I'll just leave it at that, but I just want to say there's so many people involved in
mm,
Hollywood that's not necessarily a part of Hollywood.
mm,
The restaurant that does the craft service on movie sets.
mm,
There's
Mhm.
so much involved in movies, and it's not just actors, a camera, and a director. You know what I'm saying? And I just wanted to make
Mhm.
that point because it's such a mega industry. It supplies so many jobs. It's honestly a miracle. Like we should. It's just I'm just every day I think about. I'm like, wow, the amount of jobs that this one movie is giving people. It's just a money making, job creating. It's a very it's incredible. It's so cool.
mm.
Mhm.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Mike, did you have any questions, or did we want to
Um,
get into the meat and the potatoes?
Meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Well, am I allowed to talk about where you interned? Because I thought that was really cool.
Um, yeah. I don't know what you know,
Well,
but
okay. Did you
so
intern? Like, can I just ask you point blank? Did you intern for DreamWorks? Because I thought that was.
no, I didn't intern for DreamWorks.
Oh
No.
crap. Okay. I I thought for some reason. Okay, this is how family things get messed up. That you did.
Mm,
No, no. I'll say it only because they're not in business anymore. But
mm,
it was this really cool company called New Deal Studios,
mhm.
and they specialized in doing all of the miniature sets for all the big movies.
Oh.
So it and it's not a business anymore because everything's CGI now. But don't forget, long ago, before computer CGI was good, if you want to, in Star Wars, all those ships, those were all somebody hand built. All
Yeah.
of those things.
Mm,
So it was a really cool step in the door for me, just to kind of see how all that worked. And I think, what movie was I working on? We were working on what's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? Shutter Island? Yeah,
Shutter
Shutter
Island. Yeah.
Island. They built the whole compound of the island and the prison,
Mm,
and I got to see them film it and with the blue screen. Like it was just a really cool intro into Hollywood because you're getting a little sense of that magic of like,
yeah.
wow,
For
but yeah,
sure.
that's where I interned, Mike.
Okay. All right. That story is just as awesome. I'm just scribbling out worked on Shrek. Um,
Oh
yeah,
man.
just gonna black that out and move on. Redacted.
No, that's super awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, no, Shutter Island was definitely very beautiful, and I think you can tell when movies have aspect of that, the real, the real sets. Not that the CGI stuff isn't, but in a different way. But like the you look at Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. It looks so timeless even now because of the effort that they put into those sets, and you can tell
Yes.
when movies like I don't want to keep bringing up the Flash, but like when you see things like the Flash, like okay, yeah, I get it. There's CGI, we got it. But
Yep.
then you look at things like with Oppenheimer that came out this year, and what Greta Gerwig was able to do on Barbie. Like yeah, they used some CGI, almost none in Oppenheimer, but those sets were real, and you can see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really it translates through the film when you see
Mm,
it. Like you feel it, like
yeah.
there's just, I don't know, as good as CGI is getting and as good as it is, there's just something about it when it's something. I don't know what it is. Maybe you guys can jump in, but it's
Mm,
like your brain like automatically just goes, that's fake, and you're just
yeah.
kind of like, you're just
Right.
like a little bit of your I don't know, like you're just kind of like, that's fake, and then you're kind of like not as interested anymore. But
Mm,
then when you watch Star Wars, it's like, obviously they're not filming starships flying through the
right.
thing, but
Right.
it doesn't. It's not like your brain doesn't go, oh, that's a computer. You're kind of more connected to it, and you're like, oh my god, and you're like more involved in it. Yeah,
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm not explaining it very well,
No,
but
no,
I don't know. There's
I
just
get.
something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say there's something to that. Like there's something when your brain knows it's like a visible, like literal craft
Yes.
that you see versus like something that just was digitally input into the scene. Like I can definitely feel that.
Mm.
And maybe that's why everyone was so upset about the 12 babies falling from a building in the Flash movie. And they gave us so much flack, and they're like, maybe secretly we were hoping those were real babies or models of babies.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I think it's one of those things where money is definitely a factor. Like you look at what Disney is able to put into things like what they're doing with The Mandalorian, and um, you're like, okay, yeah, the money goes a long way in making the CGI and the sets look really, really nice. Um, but I also think another part of it is when you're using real stuff, I think it just how it sits in space and how
Yep.
you like your frame of reference and how it moves across. And I think it just plays nicer with film. Like it just the way that the shutter speed, I don't know. I don't know the science behind it, but it just feels better in how it moves in space. And when you look at sometimes in CGI, it looks almost too unnaturally smooth, or it seems a little too like there's no weight to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
100%. And you can even say the same about cameras. I mean, they
Mm,
used to film it on film.
right,
Actual physical. You're getting physical grain in the picture. You're taking
right,
physical pictures of the thing, and when those pictures are projected through with the light on the screen, it literally is magic. And you
right.
can say the same. What I'm saying, what I was to revert back to what you were saying.
Mm,
The digital cameras today, they're like when you see, it's just like there's something about it. Like you're watching it, everything is like too crisp, too clear. Like it's just
right,
kind of like there's this sense of like everything's too fake.
right,
And like what you were saying, I loved what you were saying about having that physical object in the space and how it moves and how the light
Mhm.
bounces off, whether it's a piece of fabric or like a Star Wars gun, or not to keep bringing up Star Wars, but just like
yeah.
it really just it elevates that magic that we all want when we go and see a movie.
Mm. For sure. And yeah, even down to just how things are choreographed. And, of course, I mean, Star Wars is it's just the easiest thing to pick on. But, you look at the new, the new trilogy, and then you look at some of the older stuff, and just even how they choreographed fight scenes and what they were able to do with that. Like, in the original with, you have Obi-Wan Kenobi fighting Darth Vader on the Death Star. They couldn't do the flips. They couldn't do the tricks. They had to do good old fashioned, lightsaber, hand to hand. They did it all themselves. And then, with George Lucas's, prequel trilogy, they were able to get into some more, CGI stuff, but the realness was still there. They were still doing, the sets, and they weren't doing as much CGI. And then you get into, the newer stuff with J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson, and you're just like, okay, well, I mean, here we are, and you can tell, you can just tell um,
Mhm.
and I think I think they learned some lessons. Disney learned some hard lessons from that, and I think the TV shows that have been received well, like The Mandalorian and Andor, and I think they definitely leaned into more of the real sets and the real kind of choreography and stuff like that. Whereas, some stuff that might not have been as favorably received, like with Boba Fett, got some flack for the CGI and their choices. But I definitely think there's you're right. It's the digital cameras. It's something you can't quite put your finger on for sure, but you can just tell.
For sure, but just to play devil's advocate too, and,
Mm,
and play the flip side,
yeah.
also with digital cameras, we're allowed to do a lot of cool new things that we
Yeah.
never were able to do before, like
Hmm.
Right.
drone shots and like just doing all sorts of cool stuff. Like you were saying with choreographing fight
Mm,
scenes and like dropping cameras, and then the cameras are so small now we can put them on anything.
mm,
So you know there's a flip there's pros and cons
Mhm.
to everything.
for sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's all about the story. It's all about
Right.
Mhm.
the characters, and it's about great characters that we love and want to follow and root for
Yeah.
on the backdrop of just an epic, awesome story that we
Mm.
we want to that's all that matters at the end of the day. They can shoot it with an iPhone. It doesn't matter. If the characters and the story are great, that's all anybody cares about. Well,
Right.
also the audio has to be clean, but
Yeah.
Yes.
everybody
Oh,
knows
for
that.
sure. For sure.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah. And when I think of like really awesome digital shots, like I always think of last year. I don't know when it came out, but John Wick 4, I mean, some of the shots that they were able to get for that and
Yes.
their action sequences, like that top down sequence of him running through the house and shooting people with that shotgun that shoots the fire stuff. I'm like,
Yep.
that's incredible. Like that's that's what you want, right?
Mhm.
Exactly. Great
Now-
movie. I love that movie.
Even stuff in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s when they wanted to show a visual effect, they would draw on the film and animate it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, like in
terms of technology.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Mm.
The laser beams. That I'm not 100% sure. I know George Lucas's what's it called? LIM.
Mm.
His they did that. And Mike, I'm not, don't quote me on that, but I think you're right. I think they hand drew all the laser beam particles and stuff on the film for that.
Right. That's how I would do it because I don't understand how the computer technology works.
Yeah, right?
But it looks cool, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't look CGI. There's like a
Mm-mm.
different. It's got a different essence to it, you know. It's got a
Right.
different vibe to it. And when you see it, obviously you know it's not a real. They're not shooting real laser beams, but at the same time, your brain isn't going, "Oh, that's computer. That's a computer CGI doing that." No, it's got like a weird. It almost has like a whole like a spirit behind it in the
Right.
sense that you're not sure what it is. You know, you know it's not computer. You know they're not actually shooting the laser, and because you don't know exactly what it is, it allows you to keep that suspension of disbelief and just stay in the storytelling, you know, and just
Mhm.
like live in it. It's great.
No, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw this old movie where they did rotoscoping where they shot it regular. It was like this barbarian movie, but they drew over it. And it was like early 80s, and I'm like, this could pass off as something like today. I just think rotoscoping is so cool.
Mm. No,
What
for
were
sure.
they doing in it?
It was, I don't know, it was this barbarian guy. Like, this is like early 80s Conan the Barbarian market. You know, wearing the loincloth, his luscious beauty, always getting attacked by druids, and
Yeah.
him just swinging an axe at them. And
I love that.
it's the hard science fiction.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that kind of reminds me of it. Not that it's rotoscoping, but just in terms of things being real on camera. And this is a terrible, you know, analogy or a reference, but do you remember the old Power Rangers show?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, you actually had the Power Rangers fighting real people in costumes,
Right. In
you know?
suits, yeah.
So it was kind of like it just, you know, if they were CGI power, if all of a sudden the real people turned into CGI Power Rangers fighting CGI things, you know, it wouldn't. You would be like, oh, that kind of sucks. But watching them actually fight real people in the suits, I think it like really resonated with kids because I don't know, that's a bad reference, but I just like how they didn't use any CGI in that.
No, I think there's something to it because I think the ask for the audience when you're watching that and you're like, just believe a little bit. It's okay. We like the actors know, the director knows, and you know that this is just a person in a suit.
Yes.
But it just allows you to. It's a little easier to suspend your disbelief. But then when they're showing you this giant towering robot and it's like destroying New York City, and they're asking you to suspend your disbelief and say this is a real robot and acting in a real space in real New York City.
Yes.
The ask is a little bit bigger, and you're just like, I don't know if I'm willing to suspend that disbelief enough.
Something cool about Power Rangers, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but they're really smart business wise. Because the show was actually huge in Japan.
Right,
So
right.
they would just shoot the people in the Power Ranger fights in the suits and everything one time. And then they would send that to America, and they would just, the Americans will film their real people version with the Americans, and then they would
Right.
intercut that with the same footage that the Japanese version uses on their show, but with the Japanese people obviously cut into theirs. But it's the same footage. I always thought that was so smart business wise.
Yeah,
Same
Saves a
footage,
lot of
two
money.
different shows.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Smart.
We didn't get actual like new fight scenes until Big Bad Beetleborgs.
Oh yeah, the
If you look
Beetleborg.
at the history of like what is it, Super Sentai?
Yeah.
Everything that we had that was like it was either Power Rangers or like Power Rangers. They're like, oh, no, that's actually the Japanese show. Blah blah blah. And
We
then
just
Big
copied
Bad
everything they
Beetleborgs
did.
came,
Yeah.
and they're like, we did our own action scene, yay! Yeah. Oh, I found out that Barbarian movie is called Fire and Ice, and
Ah.
you can either
Oh.
buy or rent it on YouTube, or just go to the link below, which is the full movie in English. So I'll let you
The cover
decide.
looks awesome.
Hmm.
Looks like the cover to like a death metal band or something.
Yeah,
Looks sweet.
that was the rage.
In
I'm gonna check
someone's
that out.
van.
Yes.
Mike, I
Well-
don't think you told the people of the show that are listening in what the main topic of today's show is. Did you?
Well,
yeah.
by now I hope you've looked at the title of our art or read the title. But we're going to talk, and this is exciting. Like originally, it was going to be, the notes literally said, suck up to the guest. But I went a little bit further, and we haven't talked about this, and I don't even know why we haven't talked about it. But just each one of us coming up with 5 movies that we think needs to be remade for the 2023. Brought into the new age, re-envisioned, or maybe kept the same in its original glory. I'll leave that up to you guys. I have my 5. You guys have your 5. We can just go down the line.
Mm.
Each one just drops one, talks about it, and moving on to the next person.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for this. This has always been one of my favorite things that we do every once in a while, is when we'll just re-envision something that we love. Because really, at the end of the day, when people do, fan fictions, or when people do, this sort of thing, it's because they love it so much and they want it to be good, and they just have their own little vision for how it should be. And yeah, I love it, and just getting to see how people viewed something that you also saw, and just seeing how their perspective on it is a little different. I love it.
Right. People love lists, and we love making them. So I want to give the guest, you can get first dibs. Like,
Oh,
what is
boy.
the first movie you think deserves to be remade?
All right. I think. Have you guys seen the movie The Monster Squad? Came out in
Oh.
1987.
I don't think so.
I've heard of this movie.
Mm.
But then someone else used a similar title in like 2016. It was like an Asylum Films version of the Suicide Squad.
Oh, okay. Well, that was my first choice. I saw this movie when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it recently. I highly recommend it. It's like a cult classic 80s film. And it's essentially just about a group of teens. It basically, if you've seen Stranger Things, they pretty much took it from this, but it's a group of teens living in this small town, and Frankenstein, the Mummy, Dracula, the Wolfman, and the Swamp Thing all come to wreak havoc on the town, and it's about these group of teens that are just funny, and they go and battle them away, try to save the town. Simple concept, but I just think it's a really cool idea to remake. You can do a whole new cast, make it funnier. It's just cool to have like that. I love the juxtaposition of like it's like this funny movie with like young kids, young teenagers, sit on this backdrop of like this horror villain monster franchise of all the great classics. and them clashing together. It's a good foundation to do really cool stuff with.
Hmm. That actually sounds like the vision of the Dark Universe, which was supposed to go against those comic book guys. Um, the one where the Mummy was supposed to be with Tom Cruise, and then they're going to come out with a Frankenstein.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Universal, we're gonna kick off we're gonna do a whole new reboot of all the classic monster
Yes.
movies, and
Monster Squad sounds like their Avengers film.
yeah, pretty much. Maybe we should hold out on it. They can do a couple solo franchises and then end on this one.
Right.
For sure. For sure. And I mean, I definitely think that's a winner. I mean, there's such a market for that genre, I think right now, of course Stranger Things, but even just stuff um that is getting remakes now or kind of like fringe popular, like that Winnie the Pooh remake or whatever that they did. It was like Blood and Honey, and there's
Yep.
that like sloth horror movie that's coming out. It just feels like those kind of like art house sort of styled horror is definitely in vogue, and I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much potential. You got the themes of like young adolescence of going through puberty, trying to get that girl. You know, ask that girl to go on the first date, your first kiss, and then while all that's going on, Dracula is chasing you down. It's just it's silly, but
Yeah.
it's fun.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's given me, like, I don't know if you guys have seen like Happy Death Day, or what was the other one with Vince Vaughn, where he switches bodies with like
Oh,
a teenage
Freaky.
girl.
Yeah, Freaky.
Freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the the tone shift there. It's great.
Hmm.
What's
So
up
yeah.
next?
Ooh. Do you want to go,
Well,
Mike? Do you want me to go?
I'll go. So
Okay.
my first one and a few other ones are based on a meme of Lisa Simpson's. Giving it's the honest opinion meme,
Hmm.
where Lisa Simpson is ranting about why don't they make remakes of movies that failed instead of remaking the movies that were iconic.
Right.
And that is so true. And one of the movies that failed gloriously, and everyone will tell you, despite the best efforts, it didn't honor the book. It didn't honor the readers of the book, and the story just had some trouble. And that is the movie Aragon. Um, Aragon had a huge following. Like if you weren't into Harry Potter, you were into Aragon. So they did really well. And then the monster came out, or the Aragon movie came out, and everyone was all agreed that this wasn't the movie to honor the book. And
Yeah, I
so,
hate when that happens.
yes,
Didn't they make it a video game too? Wasn't it like a
yes,
PlayStation 1
Yeah.
game?
yeah. So, and I don't know if that did any better, but then the story of Aragon kind of like fell off the face of the earth. Like it was no longer like the disappointment was so heavy that people didn't want to go back to the book, and maybe the writer themselves didn't want to go and say, if this is how Hollywood treats my work, I'm done. And so
Mm,
I feel like Aragon, if any movie deserves a second chance, and it's about dragons,
right.
heroes raising dragons and villains raising dragons. So we already know that you can't get enough of that.
No, I didn't
Right.
see the movie. What were the downfalls of the movie?
Well,
I know you touched upon that it didn't really represent the book well. Like, what
Mm,
specifically about the movie um,
well, I sat
turned
next to
people off
my
against it?
sister,
mm,
who, you know, and she had just read the book, so she was very, very well into them. And apparently they switched out the whole entire ending. They wanted like a blazing guns, things exploding ending. So the sorcerer, um, instead of like the ending that the book had, it had this ending where the evil sorcerer conjured up this magical dragon that was like the final boss. And I remember my sister Elizabeth saying, "What the, this
Yeah,
this is, you know, you know."
this is what I
So
remembered.
that's just
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah,
that's just one example.
and from what I remember from because I also saw the movie, um, I think part of it was and you can tell when people are fans of the book and are good at adapting because I think that there's like a misconception a lot of times. People are like, oh, the Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, it's so good, it's such a faithful adaptation, and you're like, well, yes and no. Like if you want to go literally, from the book to the movie, it's they miss some stuff, but more importantly, what Peter Jackson does is that he takes what makes the books so great, the spirit of the books, and he translates it so well into the movie, and he honors it by it's his version of his interpretation of the movie. And the person, whoever made the Aragon movie, it just felt like somebody gave him the spark notes of like what the book was, and then was like, okay, make this movie. And then I think it kind of falls into the classic like early 2000s mid-budget movie traps where the CGI isn't the greatest, the actors aren't the best, and the writing kind of just falls flat. So it's like a perfect storm of like, oh, this is just gonna be mediocre at best.
Yeah,
Now, I'll say that because I got a little bit of a different
Mm,
perspective.
mm,
Um, when you make, I'm just looking at it from the view of like
sure.
a studio executive.
Right.
You know, you got a book, I'm sure, I would assume was a best-selling book at the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What if I was the executive at whatever studio made this, okay, it's a best-selling book. What was the target age group of these sales? Like, is it
Mm,
14 to 17? Is it young adult male? Is it young adult
mm,
female?
mm.
And then what happens is when you make the movie, you got to go, okay, well, we're not selling this movie to just boys and girls age 13 to 17, or 8
Right.
to 12, or whatever the number is. We're making this movie for everyone. So how do
Right.
we take this story and kind of make it more broad? And
Right.
am I saying this is good or bad? I'm not saying either way, but you got to kind
Right.
of see it from like a business point of view, where it's like, how do we get more people into the theater? Can we add a love story to bring in older people? Can we,
Right.
you know? So it sounds like it's just one of those unfortunate movies where like the studios were probably getting nervous. They weren't getting a lot of traction from maybe older adults, and
Hmm.
they tried just putting a bunch of stuff into the story that didn't really represent the books, but they were trying to put things in there to kind of broaden the appeal to a more generalized audience, if
For
that
sure.
makes any sense.
No, 100%. And I could totally see where that would come into play because, like, unlike Chronicles of Narnia or Lord of the Rings, where those had time to build up an audience base, the people that went to go see the movie, in the early 2000s, they'd read the books when they were kids,
Great point. Great
um,
point. And then the
but
parents gave those books to their
exact,
kids. So you had
exactly.
you had a large you had a huge group of ages and
Hmm.
men, women, that's such a great point. That's a really uh, nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then, so then that Aragon book, like, it came out probably within 10 years of its movie coming out. So,
Yes.
again, so like that movie was made, probably in response to like, oh, people went to go see the Chronicles of Narnia. There's this groundswell of interest in these, young adult fiction, novels becoming movies. let's just make this one. This one is, making money on a best-selling list, but then it doesn't necessarily translate because, like, your 24 to 35 male demographic didn't read this book because it was written for 14-year-old children.
Yeah. And
And,
correct
and
me if
speaking,
I'm wrong, but the writer does get some say in the movie. I mean, they
not
don't.
always. I mean, it depends on
Mm.
what the rights are. I mean, they can say, "Hey, we want to buy the rights to your book, and we'll give you." Again, I'm just making up numbers. This has
Right, right.
totally just pulling this out of a hat. We'll give you $2 million for the rights of your book. But okay, cool, thanks. Okay, cool. Now we'll sit on it and do nothing, and we won't even make the movie, and you can't do anything with it forever. Or we'll make a movie and we'll do whatever we want to it because we own the rights to it. Or if it's like a Harry Potter type thing where it just kind of depends. Like you have to think of
Yeah.
everything from a business perspective, where it's like
Mm.
if the studio goes against the writer, the fans are going to be pissed, and you don't want to piss
Right.
off the fans.
Right.
So, was the Aragon writer, like, were people reading Aragon because they loved the writer? Probably not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. But were they just interested in it because it was a unique story about dragons, and during that time period, dragons were really big for kids,
Right.
So
Yeah.
just something to consider,
Right.
For sure, for sure. Oh,
Yeah.
well, Mike, that's a great recommendation for the list. I like that a lot. And if you feel like you're in a good spot to move on, Mike, I'd love to
Oh
talk
yeah.
about
Yeah.
mine.
Let's go through
Um,
these.
yeah, I can't believe that this hasn't happened yet. Um, but I would love because Forrest Gump. So my movie's Forrest Gump, and I believe that there's enough time. So like, because the time frame for that movie, right, is like what, 1950 to 1980. It feels like there's just as much history that has happened from 1980 to 2010 or whatever, how many years you want to go. I don't even know if I wouldn't even necessarily even write it as like Forrest Gump a sequel, but just the idea of somebody experiencing what that looks like to go from the Cold War into you know uh, into the 90s, into the early 2000s with the internet and stuff like that. Like I really I I just really want to see someone like Tom Hanks just be involved in everything from you know uh uh, just the Iran Contra affair, and then also being there when Facebook gets invented. I just want to see that, and I feel like there's so much history just in that time frame, that like 30, 40 years. I don't even know. I wouldn't even know what I would do to pitch it. I wouldn't even say that it's like a sequel, but I would
Yeah.
just like to see it moved into the present and
Yeah.
just to see what they would do with that.
So Adam,
Mm.
let me tell you, the number
Yeah.
5 for mine was Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah.
But
Mm.
here's why.
Okay.
Because the
Okay.
book is bananas compared to what the movie
Oh,
is.
oh really? I haven't read the
Um,
book, so I didn't
yeah.
know.
So in the book, it's about a man's life growing up.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, Forrest Gump is like 6'5", and he's like a
Yeah.
big dude. So
Sure.
that's the one thing they don't get. He
Hmm.
wrestles under the name the Dunce as a pro wrestler. He goes
Okay.
into space. He gets captured by like militant like terrorists.
Sure.
So they left all that out of the book. Then there's a sequel where he does like
Oh.
80s stuff, where he
Okay.
captures like he invents New Coke.
Okay.
He plays for I think it's the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
And I think they almost made a script based on the fact that he played in the NFL. So there was
Okay.
supposed to be a sequel. He
Mhm.
captures Saddam Hussein, and
What?
he goes to the Oscars to meet the
Yeah.
real Tom Hanks and learn about like because they made a movie based on his life.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was actually going to talk about we need to go back to the roots of the book. which
No,
is like,
I love that.
yeah, Forrest Gump is like a comedy
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
books. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and for me, I guess how I would even just maybe bring it forward, I would like to see them, even if they shot it in like three different decades, in the film styles of each of those kind of decades, with like, into the modern like 2000s, just like being more, I don't know, think like 2008 Iron Man, right? Like with the all the fancy, cuts and the CGI and the action, and then the 90s just being more just classic, like You Got Mail, or 90s, when you think of like 90s, like soft focus, kind of weird, very serious dialogue with just like two people like sitting next to each other. Yeah, it just, and then the 80s was just like the flash and the glam, and
right,
that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's what I would love to see. But I love that we were on the same wavelength, that you picked Forrest Gump.
right,
But everything that you said in that book sounds a million times like way bonkier than what
right.
I came up with.
Everyone should either read the book to be more appreciative of how Hollywood handles books sometimes,
Right,
or just to get pure entertainment.
right, for sure. Okay. Um, Number two.
I just want to say on a quick note for
Mm.
that
Oh
last
yeah,
thing, I just want to say that not to stick up for the studios, but
yeah,
sometimes things work better in books than they do on film.
for sure.
And when you're telling a story in under 2 hours, and you're having the character, fighting or playing Super Bowls and then going to space and stuff, it becomes a little bit too unbelievable and
Sure.
Right,
spectacular. And I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
It actually sounds awesome. But
Right.
hearing you guys say that in my head, looking at it from a studio executive's perspective, I was kind of agreeing with the
Mm,
choices that they made, and
mm,
oh,
and making it a
for sure.
little bit more tamed.
absolutely,
But I
absolutely,
just want to
yeah,
say we can
Same.
move on. I just want to say I think it's a great idea to
Yeah.
make like the next generation of Forrest Gump, but not
Mm,
it won't be called Forrest Gump, but yeah,
right.
like what's we need to make like the next Forrest Gump. Totally, that's a
Right.
great idea. Love it.
Yeah. Loving it. Okay. Well, what's your second idea there, Sam?
A second one is now this is an interesting one because it has been remade,
Yes.
but but it's still terrible. So the original was made
Mm,
in 1960, and it's a film called Village of the Damned. Have any of
yeah.
you guys seen
Hmm.
it? I just it's
Is
one of
that the
my
one with the
favorite.
kids?
It's with the kids, yes,
Yeah,
and
Hmm.
it's such. I don't know. Every time I watch it at least once a year, and it just every time I watch it, it's just got such a great eerie vibe and tone, and it's such a timeless story because it's just about children. And it was, of course, remade by John Carpenter in
Yeah.
1995, which I don't think it did it justice. But I think that I don't think it would be a theatrical release. I think it would do well as like a Netflix release, a Netflix original.
uh-huh.
Mm,
But I think a modern version of this movie would do very well, and I think it would, you know, I think you could make it really cool. Um,
mm.
with an update.
Yeah, for sure. No, it definitely gives me kind of like A24
Yes,
midsummer vibes.
exactly, exactly.
Mm. Does it
Yeah,
give you midsummer vibes?
Get Out, or those, all those. Yeah, no, there's such a huge market for it. I really do think that um where big theaters have kind of, the mid-budget movie has struggled, I think the Netflix and streaming services and smaller companies like A24 have definitely done them a service and bringing those back and giving those movie scripts a chance because you know
100%. Yeah.
and you love to see it and that's where where would Florence Pugh be right now if it wasn't for Midsummer or same thing with Greta Gerwig, would she have a chance to direct Barbie if she didn't do Little Women. So these budget these smaller budget high concept ideas I think are huge and no I love that and I think the horror genre too is just so there's such an audience for that people that really do want to watch it and that's why they're able to continue to make things like a sloth serial killer movie because people will go and see it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And what's cool about it too is it's a horror genre, but
Mm,
what's so unique about this movie to me is that there's nothing really even happens in it.
right.
Like there's no action sequences, there's no there's really nothing, and for some reason I don't know, maybe it's just me. It's just the writing and the concept of it all is just so unique and eerie. I just if you haven't seen it, I definitely highly recommend it.
Mm,
And watch the original 1960 version.
perfect. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I was trying to think of like the last kind of movie. I guess it would be the closest thing is like I guess Get Out, where there's like that's the horror, but like there's not really. But there even in Get Out, there's still some actiony stuff happening,
But
actiony
not
in
really
quotes.
though.
Right.
It's just all like it's like psychological
Exactly.
ideas and
Right.
concepts, It's
Yeah.
it's cool. That stuff's cool.
No, that's good.
At least to
That's
me.
good. No, no, totally. There's a market for it. Hey, Mike, what's your number two?
So this one is more. I was just curious to see
Mm,
what modern directors would do if we
mm.
took the 1990 film Ghost, directed by Jerry
Oh.
Zucker, starring Patrick
Wow.
Swayze and Demi Moore, and made it for today's audiences.
Hmm.
It's one of those movies that was like really hit well and is like you could probably burn up a few podcast episodes talking about what they did well and how this was an actually good movie for Patrick Swayze. And I guess maybe there's no market for it, but like, what would Ghost look like in 2023? Like, who would be the Patrick Swayze?
The
Who would
equivalent.
be the Demi Moore?
Isn't
Yeah,
Oprah in that too?
yeah,
or
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg, yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's
That's
yeah,
an
that's
interesting choice, Mike. I
yeah.
would have never I would have never guessed that one, but
you
that's
know,
cool.
there's so much money on the table or not on the table uh, that I just thought, you know, some writer has to be thinking about this, right?
Somebody. Um, and this is purely on looks alone, but I would love to see Joe Keery in that role. Just on his mullet alone, he's the older kid that he plays Steve Harrington in Stranger Things. Um,
I'm
that's
sure
that's
he'd
the
be
only
great.
that's the only thing I can contribute. He'd probably have to get a little bit bigger to be Swayze, but he's got the same hair.
Well,
Mike, I gotta know. Say
yes.
say say the studio head over at Warner Brothers calls you and they're like, Mike, we heard this idea from you. Come and pitch this to us. What would your pitch be to
Well,
remake this movie? I gotta know.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm like, you know how America loves revenge
Mm,
films
mm.
and they love the supernatural. What if I told you that the highest grossing film of 1990 already came up with this story? We just need to modernize it. Mr. Warner, Mr. Brothers, thank you so much for your time. But we have Joe Carey. I have him on speed dial right now to do this film.
Right now.
Yes.
Sold. Let's get the writers in here. Get the writers on it immediately.
Yeah,
Yes.
get in on it. That's
Right.
great.
That was
I
great.
love that. That's good. That's good. I love that. Um, leaning into that, um, movies that came out in the past and giving it just a modern gloss over. And this is something that um, me and my friends were talking about because we we love Bill Murray, as I'm sure many of many of our listeners and those of you on the podcast also love Bill Murray. Um, I was waffling between either What About Bob and Groundhog Day, and I think I landed on wanting to remake Groundhog Day because it just feels right. Like how funny would it be? Like the sequel to the movie is Bill Murray coming back into another Groundhog Day situation, but this time he's just older and he has to like navigate whether it's like, oh, he's stuck in this time loop again, or does he have Alzheimer's, or like what is actually happening. And I would just also love to see how somebody would play with the time displacement with modern technology instead of like 90s technology or whenever it takes
Mhm.
place. Like what would it look like with cell phones? Would he be able to would he be able to like how many shows on Netflix would he be able to binge because he's just reliving the same day over and over again? Would he be able to reach out to somebody on the internet? um yeah, so I just love the idea, and I would keep Bill Murray because I definitely want him to be older, and yeah, also playing with the idea of his like advancing age, and is it because he's stuck in a time vortex again, or is it because he's aging? um I really what I want is to just get Bill Murray in front of a screen and just to see what would happen in front of a camera and just see what happened, and with a vague script. I don't even know, but I would just love for I think there's the it would just lean in on just him working that character and being in that space, but like also with the setting now instead of them dealing with the time period from the original film.
I love it. I think it's freaking genius. And would you have it be like a continuation from the original? So like in this universe,
Mm.
he he was aware that he also was in a Groundhog's Day in the past. So
Yeah,
it's happening to him again, and he knows that it's happening to him again. Or would it
exactly.
be a whole? It's oh my god, I
Yeah,
love it. That's so cool.
yeah. I think it'd be really funny. Yeah, and I would also love if he were to just like leaning into the whole like online conspiracy stuff and just have him, even if it's just like a memento situation, right, where he's like leaving himself a trail like online, or I wouldn't even know. But I again, like, I think I just want Bill Murray to play with his face. So I don't know, what do you think, Mike? Have you seen I'm assuming you've seen Groundhog Day.
Yes, and I also came to that conclusion. Like, would he know? Would he be like, "Oh no, again"? And I mean, obviously, it can't be about him changing his life. Um, but maybe it's like a sweeter version where he has a kid now, or like a granddaughter, and he has to change her life.
Right,
But
right.
he figures that out like at 0 hour.
Right. No, I think that's good. I think there's um no,
That's a great idea.
yeah, I like that.
And it's kind of like
And
Happy Death Day. Like
right.
they really played with that, but like
Mm.
made it about murder. And, yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Number 3, moving along.
Number 3, have you guys seen the movie The Game?
Oh.
Is that the '90s version?
1997, David
Yeah.
Fincher,
Yep, yep.
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I just think it's such a perfect movie for a remake because you could really pick it up anywhere. It could be a whole new. You don't even need to make a call back to the old film. You can if you want to, but just a whole new game, new. Have you guys seen it or not?
I've heard good things about it. I heard that like this is one of Michael Douglas's shining moments, and it's got like an interesting thriller type aspect to it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Sean
Have you?
Penn's great in it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. It's such a simple concept, but I just think it could be such a huge franchise. And again, it doesn't even have to be a theatrical release. I think it could be, but I'm always thinking like business wise. But
Sure.
I think it could be easily like a huge franchise for Netflix or a Paramount Plus to pick up, where you do like 3 movies, you do a 3 movie deal. I don't know. It could even be like a series too. It would be a fantastic series.
Mm-hmm.
Episodic.
Episodic. Um, yeah, for sure. I love that. I Do you think that you would want to lean into more of the like? Would you want to lean more into like a world building scenario, like where like the movie, because like, and that one I think what intrigues me the most about the game is like the universe, and like it feels like you can take like any character or any actors that work together, and you put them in that scenario and in the plot. You'd be like, oh yeah, like I could see how this would work. Would you want to like I, like
Yeah, no, because I'm thinking like
mhm.
Squid Game. Like
Yeah,
Squid Game
exactly.
is absolutely huge, and this could be, Squid Game is obviously Netflix,
Right,
but so like if Paramount Plus picked this up, this would be Paramount Plus's Squid Game, and you could, I
right.
mean, I see money written all over it. And yeah, total world building because the characters start uncovering like who's behind the game, you
Right.
know, or maybe it's not a game because that's the whole fun of the movie. But um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think there's so much potential
For
with this
sure.
this whole concept. It's such a great foundation to just build from.
No, I think that's no, I think you're right on there. Yeah, because the Squid Game, I mean, undeniable hit, and I also it also gives me kind of like I think it's more nuanced than the Saw trilogy, like the Saw movies. Um, but it has that same sort of um vibe to it, right? Like uh the psychological torture, right, that they're going through. It's not necessarily the things that they're doing. It's just more when the audience gets put into the scenarios, and then that makes you kind of squirm. And I think that where the game and um, Squid Games like also really thrives is that it's not about the events. The events themselves almost feel like a distraction from like the overall story, and
100%. Yeah.
where the overall story is really where the horror's happening, and whereas like the stuff that they're going through is just like a distraction for like really what's going on over top. And
Oh,
it does, yeah, and it just
hundred
feels like
percent agree.
right, and it feels like 3 movies or something would give the audience and the studio time to kind of explore everything. I love it.
Totally, and it could even be just like Squid Games in the sense that, I mean, this movie follows one character, Michael
Right.
Douglas, but
Mhm.
obviously, if you made an episodic of it, you can have it like a group of characters that this is
Mhm.
happening to, and maybe they don't know each other at the start of the show, but then as the show goes on, they somehow meet up with each other. Then they find out, well, why were we picked, or how are we connected? There's just you could do. It's endless. It's absolutely endless. You're totally
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That's good. Hey, Mike, number 3.
Okay, so this one is like a puzzle for my brain. Who would lead into it? But I always thought that the art of parody movies and satire movies has been like lacking,
Mm.
and for good reasons, because usually the ones that come out make like $10,000. Movies like Scary Movie 1 through 5. But I've always wanted to see what a Naked Gun
Yeah.
modernized remake would look like now. It's so sad we can't get Leslie Nielsen.
Mm.
Um, I personally can't think of who would replace him, but I know that I want Terry Crews to be in it. I want Octavia Spencer. For some reason, I think she'd be hilarious.
Mm,
Um, there's so many people I would want in this, but I don't know who would play Frank Drebin.
right.
And we couldn't get O.J. Simpson, so I'm trying to think. Maybe Terry Crews could replace O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, I'm running through the list in my mind of people like, and I don't think anyone is a perfect fit, but like I'd start with maybe like Steve Carell or like Steve
Maybe.
Martin.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I because what
But
makes those movies so great is Leslie Nielsen and his delivery and his timing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I would definitely would love to see. I would love to see that
yeah,
because Airplane, is based on like an older black and white disaster movie,
right. Those were
and
huge.
yeah, and I would love to see someone make something, making fun of like the Meg or making fun of 2012 or something like that. Like,
Right.
I could see it.
That's
Right.
hilarious.
Yeah, like what actor would not care that he had to be silly for like an hour and a half? And like Leslie Nielsen, like he did not care how silly he had to be. But
Right,
like I could see other actors maybe complaining, like, oh, really?
right.
Like A24 studio wants me, guys. I don't have time for your Naked Gun movie, you know.
Right, right.
Mhm.
I mean,
It's tough
I
shoes to fill, but there's definitely someone out there.
Yeah.
right, right. No, for sure. I mean, I like the closest I can kind of get is like with Simon Pegg and him doing all the stuff with like the Cornetto trilogy, like Shaun of the Dead and
Yeah.
um Hot Fuzz. Like those are kind of in the same vein. So I could see him maybe taking a shot at it, but yeah, no, I would love to see a modern version, maybe with Zach Galifianakis. I don't know, who
Yeah.
knows.
Or the guy who played Weird Al in the Weird Al movie,
Oh,
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Do you think
Yeah, he'd be great.
I
he
yeah, he he has done such an incredible job of going against type. I loved him in Guns Akimbo,
this is such a silly movie. Yeah, he's perfect.
which is kind of like the game actually, or the movie we were just talking about, because he wakes up and he has like these two guns like drilled into his hands, so he can't like take them off, and he has to like he's like given directions on these people that are also playing in this game, and they have to like kill each other. So he has to like go find them, and he has to like shoot them with stuff. It's insane, but yeah, no, maybe Daniel Radcliffe, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, my number three movie. Super excited about this one. Um, because really, um, I I want Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, but I want everybody to retain the roles that they had. And so it's like Macaulay Culkin now, and it's Donald Trump now, and like it's but nobody like Joe Pesci like now, but nobody acknowledges that they're old. It's literally just the same movie, but it's just them old.
Oh my gosh, I have a Patreon that's trying to get that off the ground.
It's the same movie. And there's all the movies that we talked about so far have been like within the realm of possibility. There's no way this movie could get made, but I would just pay anything for post President Donald Trump to be like, take my limousine, and like gesture across like a thing to like a 50-year-old Macaulay Culkin. Because probably Macaulay Culkin is the same age now as when Donald Trump was in that movie. Home Alone 2.
Right. Everyone
I'm so
acts so
sold on this.
innocent.
They need to make this right now.
That's what I'm saying. I I have no notes other than it's the same movie just now.
Hmm.
That literally needs to be made right now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
People would love that, like
That-
100%.
for sure, for sure. And just leaning in because it definitely feels like movies are so serious and I love serious movies. Like I love Oppenheimer. We love it. But like sometimes movies just need to be silly and this one just feels silly and I love it.
Right. Now, should the when he gets to the traps in the house, should they be based on like the real injuries you would suffer, thus making it an R rating, or would it still be the for
um
children?
I I think that I think there's something to be said for like a gritty reboot. Um but I don't want that to be in my movie. I want it to be I want it to have the same PG rating. I want it to be silly and goofy and I think that will make it um that's what'll make it like horrifying because you're watching and you're like, this is weird and off-putting and I love it and I can't look away. But kind of like The Room, right? You're like, this is a
Mhm.
train wreck. This shouldn't be happening in front of me, but it is, and I accept it.
Yes.
I'm gonna get on the phone with the studios tomorrow.
Yes. I know you have an in with the studios. Why do you think we invited you?
Yeah, right. They're not gonna listen to anything I say, but
Yes.
if they did, this would be the first thing I would pitch.
That's what I'm saying. And Donald Trump's not doing too much right now, right? He doesn't have anything on his plate. He's got some free time.
Right, right.
Oh man. Okay, number what are we at? Number 4. Plugging
Right.
along.
I think it's funny. Like
Mm,
my choices are like I'm looking at it from like a studio exec, like business,
sure.
like what's gonna make money and how
Yeah,
who
yeah.
like you guys are like choosing like these fun like things. Like
It's,
I'm like thinking like okay, what's gonna profit and make the studio money?
it's, and we're
No,
thinking what's gonna can the studios.
Yeah, I know.
like hey, it there's nothing wrong with either perspective.
Yes.
100%.
100%.
Um,
Mm,
actually, this one actually is kind of like not. This is just kind of my own. It is interesting though that we have such different
mm.
choices. But okay, Enemy of the State with Will Smith. I just
Oh,
think
Oh,
that came out in 1998. We're 20 years later. The technology of like the 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 government and all the crazy technology and cell phones and stuff.
mm,
I just think that this would be a really cool reboot with the right actors. Um, there's just so much that has changed in the country and over 20 years now. I think you could do something really cool with it.
mhm. Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. Would you have Will Smith back, or would you go with
No,
somebody
it would be
younger?
totally different cast.
Okay.
I wouldn't
Okay.
even know. Didn't think too far ahead of it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys seen the movie or not, but it's a really cool movie and it
I
just
have
shows
seen it,
you
yeah.
Mm,
like how far the like all the crazy technology and how far a government will go to like protect its secrets and that kind of stuff.
mm.
Yeah. I no like the funny thing is they embedded this chip into TurboGrafx 16, which I thought that's awesome.
Mm.
Like that's like in yours, it would probably be embedded into a Nintendo Switch,
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
yes, or a Steam Deck. Yeah,
Or right into his skin.
right.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed a lot of like political intrigue thrillers.
Mm.
They're not that popular now. Like I remember in the '90s, like every month had a political intrigue thriller. The government versus the man.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. I mean, the closest thing I think that's coming out like now is like having the Succession having just finished, and I mean, it's not a one for one sort of thing, but um, yeah, you're right. I think the days of like West Wing and those political kind of dramas. Yeah, no, it definitely felt. Yeah, there hasn't been anything out quite like that. Or like
Yeah, I
your
mean, I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's
Mm.
a political thriller, just more of a thriller.
Yeah.
Right,
But
right.
I don't know. I just thought a lot has
Mm,
changed with technology and the capabilities of the government today, and I
yeah,
think it'd be cool to see an
yeah,
update of it.
yeah, for sure. No, for sure. I think if I were to recast it, I think you have to go with Michael B. Jordan in Will Smith's role. Anybody else, I'm not really sure. You just insert whoever, I guess. But yeah, I think
Yeah, exactly. Someone like that.
yeah,
Or you
someone.
could do a cross genre and you could
Oh,
do it could be like a comedy, where it's
oh,
like like you said, Zach Galifianakis, and like the government's chasing him down, but like he doesn't quite know that they're
yeah,
chasing him down, but
yeah,
everything he does is like outsmarting them because he's so silly.
right.
Right.
I
He
love
did a
that.
movie like that with John Hamm where he becomes like an accidental spy.
Mm.
What movie's that?
Oh my gosh, there was one scene from
Mm.
that movie that just made me laugh. And that's when he's typing into his
Just
phone.
one.
Yeah, really, like literally this phone like made me laugh uncontrollably. My wife thought I was so weird. Um Gal Gadot is also in it. Like
Oh, what? What is this
they
movie?
play like a tag team of spies, and like Zach Galifianakis and his wife get roped into it, and oh my gosh, there's he's trying to write in his phone. I wish I hadn't let John Hamm dupe me, but it like autocorrects to I wish I hadn't let John Hamm diaper me, and that just makes me laugh every time. So, uh, like we had to pause the movie practically because I was laughing.
Is
That's
it
so funny.
Confess Fletch?
Oh no.
No.
Uh, okay, you guys keep talking. I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, like I gotta know now. This sounds intriguing. That's great. Well, so
It's
for
Keeping Up
my
with the Joneses.
okay.
Yeah,
Keeping
I'm
up with
definitely
2016.
watching this.
Oh, it sounds
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah, I have to check it out. Isla Fisher's in it. Wow.
Hmm.
What a cast. Okay, so my next one and this also feels like another genre that has just been left behind. Um but I want a remake of Homeward Bound. We were talking about it at work the other day, the original movie, and it's so like the kids movies nowadays. It just feels like there's a Paw Patrol movie coming out that I'm sure will do great. It'll make a lot of money, but I mean, there's just something about those like animal real life animal actor movies, and I'm sure it's so hard to try and do an animal cast movie now. In
They just
comparison,
came out with Strays, which is an all dog
Strays.
cast.
Oh, that's right. With is it Dwayne the Rock
W-
Johnson and
Will Ferrell.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, I would love to see a Homeward Bound remake. And yeah, like I just miss. Maybe it's the nostalgia talking, but yeah, that like kind of era of like Air Bud and all those movies. Maybe I'll give Strays a chance. Um, but yeah, like I just love the idea of getting animals in precarious situations and then them triumphing and um really the scene at the end where it's not Shadow. What is I forgot the dog's name. When they think he's not gonna come back and then he comes up over the hill and he's
Ants.
there. And,
Yes.
yes. Um, and yeah, it's just there's just something magical about that and in those movies. So I just want I just want I guess I just yearn for the simpleness. and the
Uh,
joy and family and friendship and cute animals doing cute stuff.
yeah. What's
I could see it totally happening. I mean, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but
Mm.
every year they always throw out a few animal movies, and
Mm.
I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but they always throw out at least one movie with a girl and a horse. That's like a must for studios. I don't know why, but a
There's
girl and
just
a horse movie.
yeah, people just need it, I guess. People, there's a market. Um,
But I love this idea of just like going back to like, it's not about big franchises or
mm.
big set pieces. It's literally just like a wholesome family, simple concept. It's about family and animals. I love it. I think we should move back to that sort of stuff for sure.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, I mean, I don't get me wrong, like I love all the Marvel stuff. I'll chill out money to go see it any day of the week. But it definitely does feel like there's not as much variety as there was back in the day. And um, I'm sure that there's marketing involved and all that. But yeah, I just I guess I yearn for the days when I could go to the theater and I could be like, yeah, like, do I want to see like a Terminator action film, or do I want to see Airbud, or do I want to watch Mighty Ducks? The options.
I
mhm.
love it. I'm so on board. And my actually next pick goes perfectly with this.
Boy,
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
yes,
Yes.
so great.
It's just
Oh
such a
man,
simple, easy concept, and
yeah.
it writes itself.
They made
No,
a video game based on it.
No way. What system?
Well, I mean, it's a spiritual successor called
Mm,
Grounded from Xbox, where it's a sandbox game where
mm.
you're shrunk into your backyard and you have to survive
Oh
by
my
killing
god.
like tiny little mites and using blades of
Is there ant
grass. So
fights?
there's spider fights, and the
Okay,
spider fights are actually so scary that there's an option to tone it down.
I love that. I love that. No, I love that idea. Um, and I would also like to see, because there's like a thing in like 90s, early 2000s, like sci-fi that was kind of like that, where they was just the technology just felt goofy, like goofy but fun. So I would like to see how that would translate into like modern, like what that would look like with like cell phones and stuff like that.
Yes, hell yes.
Hmm.
I can see it now. They're just like they're standing on an iPad and they have to like jump to like
Oh my
hit
god, that's
letters.
hilarious. That's
Uh,
hilarious.
and
And
there's
it
like
keeps auto correcting.
right, right, and they
Yeah.
Would it be kids or would it be R where like, I'm not
mm,
saying a Seth Rogen type movie with like Jonah Hill and like,
yeah,
like what you could go there's just so much potential. You can go either way.
I
right.
just think you copy paste the cast, the kids from Stranger Things.
Into it.
Yeah,
That would be perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I do think that you need like a silly fun adult, someone like a Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen would say yes for sure. I mean, he did the Mario movie, so he'll say
Will
yes to
Ferrell would
this.
probably be in
Yeah,
it.
Will
oh,
Ferrell
100%.
definitely.
So, I love it. No, I think that's great. And yeah, I just think it translates like, because I think the spirit of that movie just translates well, right? Like it's not high concept. It's just like, hey, like this is about like at the end of the day, it's a family movie, and the values that all encompasses, and just having fun together and exploring this universe, but they're
Mhm.
small. So I love it.
Yes.
It's a cool idea, but it's not as cool as Home Alone 2 rebooted.
Home Alone 2.5.
Yeah, Home Alone 2.5.
Oh my gosh.
Are we
Yeah.
on our fifth round? Because I
Yeah,
don't
this is the
think
last one.
I have actually two more because the one that
Oh.
I shot out was actually just like to build
Oh.
off of yours.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But it kind of works out because you took my we both
Forrest
tried
Gump.
the Forrest Gump,
Mm.
and I've been fighting to find a movie, and I found like three different replacements. But I'm gonna do just a quick, shoot them off like bullets.
Mm.
Okay, so Dumb and Dumber 2023
Okay. Okay.
with Chris Pratt and Tom Holland. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
going, going to Aspen to bring back a suitcase because Chris Pratt fell in love,
Right.
saying just the most moronic things to each other.
Right.
And they kind of already test cased this movie with Onward, so we know it
Mm.
works.
Right.
We just need more dumb humor. All right. And
I love that.
my other idea is a remake of Who Framed Roger Rabbit called Who Remade Roger Rabbit with today's current cartoon stars. So
That's
he's living
great.
in a world with SpongeBob, Regular Show, the Annoying Orange, Coco
Yeah.
Melon, Adventure
Yeah, I love
Time.
it. Bluey.
Yes, and yeah, he's fighting like. Does he want to be a YouTube star where he gets 1 million followers? Does he want to be like one of those horrible kid shows, or
Right.
does he want to be a golden classic?
Right. I
Yeah.
would just love the idea of maybe Mr. Beast being the bad guy because he's like YouTube star. He's killing off children's cartoons.
Right. I mean, there's so much use for a movie made with YouTube influencers.
Right.
They tried to make on Paramount Plus right now. There's this movie called Airplane Mode, which is all starring YouTube influencers, and
Mm.
it's supposed to be like a spiritual sequel to Airplane. It's supposed to be dumb humor, and it's got Paul, what's his name, Logan Paul, and
Oh.
other just like famous
Mm.
YouTubers, and
Mhm.
it's really just stupid, raunchy humor. It's like awful, but I thought the idea of them being the next, like doing a throwaway comedy movie was a great idea.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
maybe these guys, if they're not busy, could be on my movie.
Yeah, no, I love that. And did you see that new Chip and Dale Rescue Ranger
Yeah.
movie?
Yep.
Yeah, I love that because they kind of they do some stuff like that. Like they bring in the original CGI Sonic, how he was
Yes.
before the remake. So yeah, I'd love to see like visual gags like that. Like, I think that's great. And Who Framed Roger Rabbit is such a classic. Like that's one of my favorite movies of all time. That's so great,
Yeah. It was so ambitious for its time.
right?
How did
I
they
hate
get
to
the
admit it,
rights
but
to all those? You see
Mm,
Mickey Mouse in the background.
mm. So what were we saying there, Sam?
I was just gonna say I hate to admit it, but I never saw it. So that's definitely
Oh
one I'm gonna watch.
yeah, definitely do it. It's great. It's very good. Um, So for my final movie, and I guess maybe I guess I would do the maybe the first three as well. But what bothers me to no end is how tonally different the first three Fast and the Furious movies are from the rest of the Fast and the Furious
Oh my
movies.
god, so true.
So I would want to just remake the original three, but just in the style of the modern Fast and the Furious movies. And maybe maybe it's like we'll do an extended multiverse situation. I don't know. They've come up with crazier ideas like shooting cars into space. So I'm sure they could figure out a multiverse saga for Fast and the Furious. But I would just love to see um them just bring the original trilogy into their modern craziness. Like don't get me wrong, like I love the first, like the first two are just so they're just like staples of my like
Mhm.
adolescence. Like they were among the first like PG-13-ish movies that I saw, and so they hold a special place for me. But yeah, it definitely feels its age when you watch them. So I would love to see just maybe an update in um just the visuals and maybe some of the cars and yeah, and I don't even know what they would do because like I don't know, it'd be hard because you know rest in peace Paul Walker, but um uh yeah, no, I would just love to see them do something like that because I definitely it just feels so tonally different than the current one, so I'd love to see them
What's so
maybe
funny
fix
about
that.
this idea is because like you were like the first one, the craziest thing that the gang was doing, they were like stealing
Yeah,
DVD players.
DVDs. Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like they're like doing like you were saying like doing these crazy stunts just to
mm,
steal DVD players is
right.
pretty hilarious.
Just DVDs, and like, and that doesn't even play now. You're like DVDs are like were they trying to sell them on like at a vintage store? Like what?
Yeah.
It just feels like such a departure, and yeah, no, I love it. So yeah, that's my final pitch, maybe redoing the original trilogy there.
I don't think that'll ever happen, but we can wish.
Right, right. They'll just keep pumping them out. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, well, Mike, I'm so glad that we did this. This is I love just like talking about movies and redoing movies and yeah, this is great idea, Mike. I love it.
Yeah, thank you
Well,
guys so much for having me on.
you're
I'm happy to be a
welcome.
part of it. I hope your audience enjoyed it, and yeah,
Yeah, well, once you text Scorsese and tell him about this podcast,
Scorsese.
then I think we're going to blow up.
I think he's listening right now. So just say hi.
Oh, man.
Hello.
Hollywood
Hello, sir.
elites. They get
Hello, Mr.
everything so soon.
Scorsese.
Yeah. I love it.
All right. So, thank you everyone for joining us for another
Mm,
wonderful episode of Film Logic. Thank you,
mm.
Sam. Is there anything you want to plug? Is there like any content you're creating that you want people to see? Or maybe you just want to give them a link to the game starring Michael Douglas?
No, I wish I could talk more about it. I'm under NDA stranglehold, but just so please, if you're listening, just support Hollywood. Go see movies, buy movie tickets, bring your family, and make it a ritual. Just go every weekend because it supports a lot of jobs, and
Mm.
and hopefully
Mhm.
you have a great time watching the movies.
Yes,
All
for
right.
for sure.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, and we know that you're going to continue doing amazing things. Thank you for watching. I've been Mike.
I'm Adam.
And hit subscribe on this podcast and make this
Yes,
Yeah.
go to number one.
yes,
Yeah,
and
do it.
that's my cousin Sam. You mess with him, you mess with me. Anyways, see you later, folks.
Oh,
Welcome to Storytime Improv. Word of the day.